when you're making a product for, 4% of people, 96% of people are going to voice their opposition to what you're doing. And I think that that's really important to remember as a startup, founder is you need to know exactly what your market size is. We've since expanded our scent profile, but we're still only for 10% of the people. That still means that 90% of the people are going to look at what we're doing and say that is pointless and horrible. Like, and so knowing that that feedback is coming is is crucial.
Hey guys, guess who? Kevin back with Whale Sightings. I'm super excited today to welcome in Danielle Vincent from Outlaw. Danielle, I've said this to you before, but I'll mention it again. I feel like you've had 4 or 5 lives. I read a bunch of stuff. I'm exhausted just from hearing all the things that you've done. Is it? I mean, it doesn't seem like it's short attention span. Are you just that ambitious? Do you want to literally learn and achieve success at everything?
Yeah, so it is attention deficit disorder, but diagnosed or attention abundance disorder, really. But yeah, it has been a really exciting career. I have done everything from working as an art director at Microsoft to startups to the newspapers, trying to migrate classifieds over in the age of Craigslist. Like, everything. If there's a big problem, I will not hesitate to jump in. I like to think of myself as a puppy running through a field and rolling in anything that smells interesting. So
Well,
thank you.
oh yeah, sure, of course. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, and we'll talk about this at length, but it looks like you guys are having a great deal of fun. I definitely want to unpack that some, but I would be remiss because here at Whale Sightings, for those who are uninitiated or just maybe have forgotten after all the things that you did over the long weekend, what Whale Sightings is really all about is kind of exploring the entrepreneur's journey and talking a little bit about the companies that emerge from these opportunities and sort of how we get there. And I guess my first question is, having sufficiently given you a hard time about how many things that you've done really well, like how does one get from working for Oprah to running a scent centered CPG brand?
Yeah. So as I'm sure you can imagine, the entertainment career path is very intense. My job was pretty high responsibility, high stress, many, many, many moving projects at one time. I went from having programmed like the 5 love languages quiz that Oprah was taking live on her iPad on the air to the Lance Armstrong interview in the same day. I literally ran from watching her do the quiz on her iPad, going to the bathroom, throwing up from anxiety, coming back and doing the Lance Armstrong interview. It was an intense day.
Oh my.
And yeah, why was it intense? I don't know. No big deal. And I got in my car that evening, very, very late, very, very late at night. And I turned on the BBC and they were talking about the Lance Armstrong interview. And I was like, wow, they saw it on my player. Like, amazing. That was like my moment of victory. And as I'm sure you can imagine, going in that kind of a stressful environment, you don't have a lot of time off. So I started wishing that I could get out to Joshua Tree more often, but not really having the time or the energy or the ability to go out there on the weekends even. And so I started thinking if I had a scent or if I had some sort of a way to connect with that. When I found my husband and I went on our honeymoon and we found a bar of soap and I brought it back and started smelling it every day. And it just really took me back to that honeymoon. And I thought, you know what? I can use this technology. And so started researching different kinds of scents. We found that there was a very good sagebrush scent and started working on the scent of the high desert. And that was really what started it. We realized that if we could make anything smell like anything, then we should trigger our favorite emotions. And it did make my life better. So less stressful.
No, that's really cool. Well, I mean, I guess the logical follow-up question is, does soap scrub away scar tissue? Because it sounds like
Emotional scar tissue, yes, it can. It
Yes,
can be
yes.
incredibly therapeutic. In fact, I am always reading like massive studies on scent and mood and emotions. There's a lot of science behind it. I work with a scent researcher from Brown University, Rachel Hers, who is kind of the in my opinion, of course, the best scent researcher in the world. And so being able to use science and look at the studies and see what autobiographical scents or scents inspired by real life have to do with your wellness, mental health, and stuff like that. It's very inspiring work.
It makes a big I would imagine that that really informs a lot of what you do, and as I hear you talk about this, one of the things that occurs to me that is that seems pretty pervasive in the language that you guys put out there about your brand is this sort of I would almost equate it with how our favorite song takes us back to the first time that we heard it and how old we were and like all of that shenanigans.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So speaking on that, like one of the most recent studies was done about cleaning products and laundry detergent in particular. I know, really exciting, riveting stuff. But
Oh, sure.
they found that the facial expression of people who are smelling a detergent that they've been using for more than a year is actually more pleasure reflecting than your facial expression when you're hearing your favorite song.
That's
So
fascinating.
yeah, you get more happiness, more internal joy from smelling a scent that you're brand loyal to than your favorite song.
That's really interesting. And of course we could go into the weeds and try and unpack exactly why that is, but I'm going to accept it and then also uh try and
Your
see
brain is a
if
freaking miracle, is why. I mean, it's a miracle. It's
yeah.
amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's crazy. So,
Yeah.
somewhere along the way, you wrote a book. We won't get into the whole book sidebar, except to say that it's really kind of about. It seemed to me like and I haven't read, full disclosure, I've not read the book, but read up on the book, and it seems like it's all about discovering who you are and what your path is in a very short period of time.
Mhm.
And was that something that was innate to you? Did you learn how to like and ultimately where I'm going with this is like how did that it impact beyond like not wanting to have your heart handed to you every day as part of the
Mhm.
entertainment industry like how did that help inform your journey?
Yeah, so working at Oprah, like every single thing that I did was like working on these projects. I would take like the Are You Burnt Out quiz and be like, okay, the quiz works. And I got
Yeah.
100% yes, I am burnt out. Oh, well, next project. And so I got the opportunity to get a lot of great reflections on myself. Unfortunately, I did not reflect on myself because I was in this intense environment. But as soon as I got into the entrepreneurial world, it was just me and my husband. We started with like zero money. We bootstrapped and everything. So it was a really intense time, but also there was no structure. So I was in the zero gravity environment and I found myself kind of grasping at any root or branch that I could, grab as I was falling off of a cliff of meaninglessness. And so I had the opportunity to kind of revisit, like, oh, right, there was that Are You Burnt Out quiz that had like the article following up with what to do if you're burnt out. And so I started following all these, like, I downloaded all these apps, Headspace and Calm and Insight Timer and everything, and started really trying anything that would improve, like that I could prove through research, because I'm a giant dork, uh what was working and what wasn't working. Kept lots of documentation about what improved my sleep, everything like that, dietary stuff and everything. And I basically did a 30-day book on what worked, with, four recap sessions. But I felt like if somebody could do these things, just in under an hour a day, just at least get the toolbox, then they could, start being more functional. And it was really helpful to me to do that and then to write the book, because I'd always wanted to write a book. Turns out it's not more complicated than putting words in an order that makes sense. It's just a lot of work. So if anybody's
Right.
wanting to write a book, do it. You should totally do it. It's not impossible.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Maybe we'll talk about that next.
yeah. Yeah, it was really fun.
So
It was really fun.
so you get out of entertainment, you somewhere
Yeah.
along the way you write this book, and
Yep.
then by the way, it also occurs to me that it's like really appropriate that if you didn't live in Sparks, that Sparks would be a great place to live and run a company called Outlaw. Like it seems like all of the chips are just sort of lining up for you guys.
Yeah.
But so you start to so the nerd part of you starts dorking out on how we make sense and sort of what the science behind that is. Obviously, you find some folks who are credentialed in that space and start to really get into the nitty-gritty of it.
We started before the research came out. So we started doing these
Okay.
inspired sense. And then I think it was 2017. So we started the company in 2013. And in 2017, I think it was, these studies started coming out about the scent research. And it was like, this is what we've been talking about the whole time. This is what we've been talking about. So we did start developing this sense. We actually started the company in Los Angeles in our living room while I was working at Oprah. And then because we had no startup money, we were just starting with like under $20.
Yeah.
And then we moved up to Oakland, moved out to Antioch, and then Grass Valley. And then there were fires that I'm sure you've heard of, the fires that were in, the Sierra Nevada mountains. And
Yeah.
because of that, we actually lost our electricity many, many times during our peak production season. And I realized I cannot live in a place that does not have consistent electricity and run a multi-million-dollar business. So we moved to Sparks.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was
Well,
really random.
yeah, well, right, and you again, it's like you kinda get there how you get there,
Yeah.
but obviously, and you mentioned too that the community part of what you guys do is pretty central.
Mhm.
Can you speak to, or would you speak to the idea of, um, that consumer feedback loop? Like, you guys are what are you hearing from the people who from the very beginning, like, what were the people saying that encouraged you to keep going?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, when we started the company, having a soap or anything that smelled like campfire was a disgusting prospect for many people. That was like the overwhelming first response from
Oh,
probably 96% of people. When you're making a product for, 4% of people, 96% of people are going to voice their opposition to what you're doing. And I think that that's really important to remember as a startup, founder, is you need to know exactly what your market size is. We've since expanded our scent profile, but we're still only for 10% of the people. That still means that 90% of the people are going to look at what we're doing and say that is pointless and horrible. Like, and so knowing that that feedback is coming is is crucial. And sorry, we talked about ADD. I forgot what the question was. Can we go back?
no, no, you covered it. Like, I guess
Yeah.
what I'm after was like, how important is the feedback loop
Oh,
in
yeah,
start
that's right.
and like
Sorry.
actually
It's
no, it's a great and
massive.
a great nugget. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is massive. So we have a No Stinkin' Outlaws group, which is our kind of teeny little group of our customers that are the most loyal and the most dedicated. And when I'm having can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah, say whatever you want.
Okay, sweet. When I'm having a shitty day, like I go over there and I check out what people are doing in our group, because I'm not over there all the time. And I really wish I was, because the people who are talking in there, the people who are writing in there, some guy, Cody, who is not a personal friend of mine, but he's been a long time outlaw. He posted a picture of his outlaw tattoo. He got a tattoo of our logo
Oh,
and
amazing.
yeah. So we have like quite a lot of, I would say, dedicated community members, dedicated outlaws, and they're really who drives us. In fact, well, I have little montage of photos of our customers over there. One of them is actually putting our lotion on his dog's toe pads. Um,
Oh,
because I want to remember, like, these are the people who I'm serving, right? The kind of people who put lotion on their dog's toe pads are the kind of people who I want to associate with. And so it's really wonderful to have so much respect and get so much joy from our customers, and they get so much joy from us and what we're doing. It's really a wonderful collaboration.
so
So,
if I'm reading between the lines, what I hear
mhm.
here beyond the dog toe pad situation, what I what
That's
what I
crucial
really hear.
though.
Oh yeah, well for sure.
Yeah.
Like what like to your point, like what it sounds like if I'm kind of stringing together what you just told me with what you told me earlier, if your audience is that 4 to 10% of people who use, in this case, soap or lotion or whatever,
Mhm.
then what I'm finding, what I think I'm hearing is that you guys figured out that the people who are in our Venn diagram of consumers
Mhm.
really love what we do. So there are no it sounds like there are very few casual outlaw folks. Correct?
Right. There's very so what we found is that in terms of metrics, people either place one order or they place four orders. So if they place a
Oh,
second order, they're likely to place four orders. And so like over a year. So that,
yeah.
indicates to me that, and depending on the order size and whatever, but yeah, so that's the thing is that when you're in outlaw, you're really an outlaw. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. I mean, we don't make things that smell like musk or jasmine or gardenias or even coconut or anything like that. If you like our scent profile, we are the people for you.
Yeah, no, it's like I was like whiskey and gas and fresh cut grass and dirt. I was like, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
So yeah, and like and the other thing that I noticed was like, and so I did like I popped over and listened to like one of your spots, and the guy who was doing the your voiceover and actor guy who was in in the or your actual customer. I didn't ask you that, but um
Oh,
the guy who
what's
was
is he super handsome?
starring in the ad seemed
Is he
like he
really
was a nice looking
handsome?
dude. I think
Okay.
so.
Yeah, that's Nick. He was a customer. He wrote
Yeah.
a review of our products on Amazon. I found his video and I was like, this guy is awesome. And so I reached out to him and I said, "Hey,
His energy
uh
was off the charts.
I know, right? Isn't he
Yeah.
just he's so amazing. And he and his wife Hannah. So Hannah is the woman who's like in a lot of our photos, and she's got these chipped nails, right? And we get comments all the time about chipped fingernails. Her chipped fingernails in particular. And I actually wrote a blog post about it, and I'll talk about blog posts in a second because I think they're an important part of community. But I
Sure.
wrote a blog post about it a couple days ago, um, because I feel like I want to, with our company, with our brand, with our entire ethos around everything, I want to celebrate reality. And to me, reality is chipped fingernails. Very few people have model fingernails, and very few people are hand models. And I would rather have somebody with, you know, weird, not bleeding, but like, regular human looking
L-
hands.
lived in. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And that I think is part of the important thing that creates a community is we are just like you. This is not an aspirational thing. Sure, maybe our models are your hot friends, right? But they're not like in a different world than any of us. Like they are totally people we would hang out with, and that was really important to me because I didn't want to have something that was out of reach for our customers. I wanted all of our brand experience to feel like a native part of their life, and I think
No,
that's
that's great.
that's really what we've
That
done. Yeah.
I thought that like that spot, he just looked like the camera just happened to catch him at a campfire and he was super excited about it, and I was like, all of this is great. So
Yeah.
so I thought that was a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, and so one of the things, like, even in the short time that I have known you, one of the things that you guys have done is that you've evolved really from primarily a soap related enterprise to more
Mhm.
of like, do you consider yourself cologne centric now, or is it really sort of all about the idea of the sense lead and everything that you do? Can you talk a little bit about that kind of that evolution?
We're 100% scent driven. So cologne is a way, and especially solid cologne and spray cologne, those are ways to bring the experience with you. So in the whole thing about scents improving your mental health, you don't just want mental health in the shower. You want it when you're about to walk into an important meeting, or whether you're in, if you have social anxiety when you're walking in the grocery store, or a lot of our customers are medical or first responders, and they have intensely stressful situations all day long. And to be able to bring Badlands or Blazing Saddles, which are very smoky, rustic, rugged scents, with them, it helps them feel like they are themselves wherever they go. And that's so the cologne is a crucial part of it. We also launched air fresheners for cars, and those have been really popular. And the cologne thing was really surprising to me because I'm not really a cologne person. I have um, a great, I think I actually used the word chode for the first time in my life in describing people who walk into a elevator drenched in cologne. That is a rude and offensive thing to do. And
Oh
I
yeah.
think it's it's a horrible thing to do to other people if you haven't, like, if they haven't consented to having your odor or their odor in your nose. Like, that's mean. And so you know, I mean, right? Like, that's a violation right there.
Yeah.
And
Get
uh
out of my space.
yeah, exactly. Get out of my actual nostrils. Like, I don't want
Right.
that. And so we've really made an important point of saying, like, if you don't like cologne traditionally, this is cologne for you. And also, cologne is to make an impression, not create an impact. So don't, like, people shouldn't be punched in the face by your scent. They should be only able to smell it when you're having an intimate moment with them.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I think, like in sort of trying to figure out how much cologne is too much cologne in general.
Mm.
Like I always go back to that sort of like the idea of like you spray the cologne in the air and then you just sort of casually walk through it. It's
Walk
like
through it.
this weird misting ritual. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
a
and that's
little
what I
it can go
really
too far.
when I discovered the solid cologne, that's one of the things I love about solid cologne, right? So solid cologne, I don't know. In fact, I just cleaned out my desk, so I have none on me. But it's like a little tin of cologne, and it's a concentrated form. But it evaporate, like, the scent goes away more quickly than spray
Oh,
cologne. So
that's
you can
interesting.
actually very much control the situation when you have it on, the situation when you don't have it on, how exactly much you apply. And there's also something that's really important called, that's scent desensitization, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Like, the same scent, if you wear it every single day, you're going to become desensitized to it if it's in every single thing. So we encourage people to kind of either change up their scents or use a different lotion than the cologne that they're using, so that there's a variety and all of our scents layer with each other in that way, because we just
Makes
want
sense.
people to continue to have a fresh experience.
Briefly off the subject,
Yeah,
did you smell either whiskey or gas at Burning Man when you were going back
like,
in the
that was
day?
pretty much the whole thing.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
We
Like,
camped in a
that's
very
I'm
whiskey and gas centric camp,
yeah.
Gaigsville. So, like, we were always standing around a burning suburban vehicle, pouring gas in and drinking whiskey out of the bottle. That was before
Oh yeah. Oh
COVID.
sure. Yeah. It just all of it'll die one way or the other.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, that's absolutely, yeah. That was very much my experience of Burning Man.
that's really funny. Okay. So what we haven't really talked about is your marketing approach. obviously, like, you're a writer, you love, putting pen to paper or clicking on the keyboard. That part comes into very naturally to you, like, clearly,
No.
like, does
It
it
does
not?
not. Oh god, I had to work really hard at it. I've taken so many
Yeah,
writing courses. I have spent so much time and energy evaluating what plays well, what doesn't play well. Something I discovered somewhat accidentally, although I'm sure every entrepreneur is familiar with it. Writing under duress is really, really helpful. Um,
sure. No,
but
I
yeah,
have a and forgive me for interjecting here, but
no, no, go ahead.
I have a journalist buddy who's like, I love deadlines. Like, I really love like a looming deadline. And I was like, you're just that's just sadistic at a certain level, but it's like the
Your
idea of
writing
like giving
excels.
yourself a constraint. Yeah. Like,
Mhm, mhm.
um,
'Cause
anyway,
you know
but
why? Because your inner critic has to be suppressed because you're just trying to get it out there. And
yep.
so every single, you know, if I'm just sitting there writing things to myself, in a leisurely fashion, I'll probably delete 30 sentences before I start writing again. And those 30 sentences were probably good starts. And so I think that that's really the essence of it is that when you are under duress, you have to get things out. Your filter doesn't have the opportunity to interject and tell you how stupid you sound. Like,
That totally makes sense, and I also think that at least, where I have been concerned, and I don't know if this has been your experience, but it's, like, also kind of nice sometimes to go back and read things that you've written from long ago enough that you don't remember the writing process, and then it's like it feels like you're reading it for the first time, and you're like, "Oh, this is kind of delightful, but it also sounds like
somebody
me."
else's
So
stuff. Yeah.
right, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, so you we talked about getting back to the blogging thing and that
Mhm,
part of building
mhm.
community. So can you speak to that a little bit in terms of how that has helped to inform just staying looped in with the people who like you guys?
Yeah, so there's two things that are super boring, and yet I found them to be persistently effective. Blogging, it syndicates. So my blog actually auto publishes the entirety of the text to Facebook. What we found looking at metrics is that our customers love reading very long Facebook posts, like pushing the character limit length Facebook posts. And so this flies in the face of every single thing that most marketers will tell you, that like keep it short and punchy. People don't have the attention to, span to read. The only time that's true, in my experience at least, is when you're writing boring stuff. So if you're writing interesting stuff, people have infinite attention span. They will
Oh,
be
100%.
just chewing on to the next word and to the next paragraph. And so I love that. I love that I can write a blog post, it posts to Facebook, and we get a ton of engagement there because that's a different level of engagement. If I write about something I wrote about yesterday was the trade-offs in sustainable packaging. We have aluminum bottles and we just launched refill pouches. The refill pouches, 40 ounces, but they're plastic. What are the trade-offs that went into making these decisions? I post that,
Right.
people respond. I love that. Those are the interactions that really build our uh brand and help us think about things in the way that customers think about things, learn what's important to our customers. So blogging is a way to create a dialogue about what we think is important and find out what our customers think is important. And also it is a great way to talk about, like, I don't know, tribe building things like the dirty
Oh, sure.
fingernails or the chipped fingernails. Like, to me, when I write about chipped fingernails, what I'm really writing about is a lifestyle approach. And I'm saying we are the people who don't really mind if fingernails are chipped. Other people can worry about fingernail polish remover. And that creates a tribe that is supportive of a certain lifestyle that is our customers' lifestyle. So we're relatable. And being able to write about that is, uh, you know, not in terms of, hey, you should not care about fingernails being chipped. But like, I was like, hey, humor me for a second. What do your fingernails look like right now? I'll start. And that was a blog post about, celebrating the fact that I did just actually remove my fingernail polish for this particular interview. You should feel
Oh, sure.
special. I
Oh,
got
yes,
all
definitely.
fancy, no nail polish. Um,
That's we
and
we won't hold it against you.
no, this is an improvement. Um,
Okay, then
this is
then
this is
awesome.
me looking nice. Is not having weird fingernails. But yeah, so that the way of creating the blog posts to build a tribe, to get people's feedback, to help educate the customer about what decisions go into all of the product decisions. Because, I mean, every single decision is put through a very fine filter of the cost and benefit of every single thing. And I think people don't know that at all. Like we had a deodorant formulation issue a year ago that we've been trying to solve. We've gone through probably 50 tests. Now, people are pissed off that we don't have deodorant still that works. I mean, it's supposed to actually arrive today. But they are not in the dark about how hard we've been trying. And
Right.
I think that that's really, really a wonderful relationship. Not only that, it actually helps us with our newsletters because our person who builds our newsletter templates, she actually just takes whatever blog post she likes the best or feels is most topical. She takes that, puts that in the newsletter. So then all of a sudden it's newsletter content. Like this content lives a long time and goes a long way. So yeah. And then also it's great for search engine optimization, obviously.
Totally makes sense. And,
Yeah.
beyond that, like even just from a content and community conversation perspective, makes you guys relatable because it's like
Hmm.
we're not over here waving a magic wand and then and then the fragrances come out. It's like we're hustling and trying to figure it out. And
Yeah.
with deodorant or antiperspirant, it's like there's a science between, I would imagine, behind the product itself as well as the way that you work the scent into that, and then yeah, trying to get it right instead of rushing it is, I think, it just, you know, you you would rather continue to hustle and make sure that your actual go to market start feels like it's got some staying power.
I mean, honestly, the thing that we're getting today, we have the highest uh optimism that it
Yeah,
will be right. And so I've decided that we're going to go ahead and send it to some of our top customers to try it out.
nice.
But like it could arrive and it could not be good. And I've posted like, hey, I'm insanely optimistic about this, but I don't want to make promises I can't keep. Like this is just an ongoing dialogue. And in fact, the other day I even went into our No Stinkin' Outlaws group and I wrote a post about like, hey, I know y'all are waiting for t-shirts and I have to explain to you what is going on there. Like, here's the thing. And that like somebody wrote and said, this is exactly why I love this company, because I personally went in there as me and said, here's what's going on. I literally haven't had a chance to design the t-shirts.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've all, and
So
again, it's like that's just relatable. We've certainly all been there, not specific to designing t-shirts, but like have these things
yeah.
that we really want to do that we haven't gotten to yet. So we
Yeah.
talked about the content stuff. What channels marketing wise have been fruitful for you guys, or where do you find that you what feels like home to you when you're putting your campaigns together?
Yeah, so I heart Facebook. I realize that there's a lot of complications with privacy and everything, and I have always loved Facebook as a community, uh, and feel like it's just a wonderful tool. That said, with the iOS stuff, like everything kind of shit the bed. It
Right.
became a very, very unprofitable. Like we just kept, shoveling, pitchforks full of cash into that fire last year. It was, I mean, I had a very like midnight of the soul year last year.
Oh,
Last
right.
year was like absolutely the shittiest year of my whole life. And a lot of it had to do with iOS. And
I
so,
think that's common.
yeah, exactly. Like having that crisis, it was like, okay. And, somebody was talking the other day on another podcast I was listening to about how blended CAC really sheltered most of us from seeing the impact. Like, we didn't see how dependent we were on Facebook until
Right.
the iOS thing was pulled out. So native to my spirit, the marketing channel feels like Facebook, but also working at Oprah, something like 30% of Oprah.com site traffic comes from newsletters. So newsletters
Okay.
have always been really important part of our marketing strategy because we own that platform. There is, I mean, sure, Gmail can put a new tab in and we can be filtered into other, but like for the most part, we own that platform and those customers are our customers. We also love text messaging because it does what we want to do is create a feeling of like we're somebody's friend.
Yeah,
And so text messaging is where somebody is, but I hold it very precious, because if you're in somebody's pocket vibrating next to text messages from their mom and potential love interests, like
for sure.
that's a high responsibility. I'm not going to be like 75% off this Friday. F that. Like, I'm
Right.
going to only be sending messages of true substance to them in their pocket, you
Yeah.
know, and uh, and so that and that we just haven't really been able to wrap our heads around Twitter. We've tried a bunch of times, and I just can't. TikTok, we've been experimenting with it. It's okay. It is a uh, very baby giraffe moment for us right now. So
Sure.
kind of awkward, but we're working on it. And I do love TikTok as a platform. Like, I've really been just truly enjoying creating content for it, but that doesn't really translate into sales so far. And then, uh, oh gosh, what's the other one? We tried Reddit for a bit because they've been ramping up their advertising platforms. And thanks to Triple Whale, we were able to identify that that was profoundly unprofitable. Like,
Oh,
like,
that's
like,
interesting.
like the chasm opened before us, and that was how profitable it was. Uh, and yeah,
Just speaking
and
of shoveling. Yeah.
I love Reddit.
Oh
Like I
yeah.
do,
Sure.
like when I do a Google search, I'm always like Red Dead Redemption hack Reddit, because like that's the voice of truth for me. But like the ad platform was just not good for us. And yeah, and then we tried like Microsoft Bing, nothing there. Yeah, so anyway, we'll try anything. We will literally try anything.
Yeah.
But we can't
Well, it
shovel $60,000 into a black hole. We're
no
just not
stands to
there.
reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So the spend is important. Obviously, where and how you spend is important. But it sounds to me like what seems to be pretty consistent with you guys is just the ethos of the types of conversations that you want to have with folks.
Mhm.
And to your point about how your crowd is just only too happy to read long personal essays from you guys, like I think that's the other thing that you get from a newsletter being a regular channel is just the opportunity to have these,
Oh
intriguing,
gosh.
like
Uh,
ambling conversations with folks if that's what they're into.
yeah, on Saturday I sent out, I was like, okay, so I, looked at the newsletter, put together the newsletter, everything. And then I have my little section, which I got from Oprah's What I Know for Sure. And so I have this little Danielle's reflection on things. And like this last time, I don't know, I started writing something and I was like, just by the end of it, I realized that I'd written probably what would be on typed paper, like 5 pages of content at like single space, like massive quantity of content. And I'm like, this is a terrible newsletter. Send. And the thing is, when you send 3 a week, it's okay if one's a stinker. But like, I got a bunch of feedback on it, like, because I had talked about the last 4 years have been quite a doozy, I'm sure, for many people. And, because we fled from fires, we were literally evacuated. That's how we ended up with Reno.
Yeah.
And And so, and then like 2 months after we moved to Reno, there was a pandemic. Like it was totally an insane 4 years. And I said, like, this is not a complaint. This is a brag because if this shit can't kill us, like we're cockroaches. Like we are gonna make it. Like we muddled through all this shit. It wasn't like we were victorious or anything. We just put foot in front of the other and we kept going. And the response from our customers was so delightful. And like, even my best friend, we've known each other since high school. And she sent me a text message and said, I really felt what you said in that last newsletter. I'm like, you read my newsletter? Like, what? And she's like, yeah, it was really, really good. It was so heartfelt. I felt that. And I was like, dang. So, and that's how we are making these relationships with our customers is through these like long, rambling, intense things. So, yeah.
Well, that's kind of it, credit to you guys. It's also kind of a gift, I think. It sounds like that you're in this case that your crowd is giving back to you guys, that that dialogue is something that they've opted into as well.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions for you before I give you your day back. So
Sure, sure.
one of them is your nickname is Normal. Is that
It is.
accurate? Is that accurate?
So all my life I wanted to be normal. Like I really did. I really wanted to be normal, but I have been diagnosed with like, being on the autism spectrum, having ADD, so I have never really actually been normal. And so finally in frustration about 20 years ago, I just changed my name to Normal and everybody just started calling me that. I started introducing myself to a whole new group of people as Normal and everybody just started calling me that. And I was like, finally achieved. Good.
Oh, it's
Done.
great. It's personal
Yeah.
branding at its finest. Um, and then the last question that I have for you guys, Danielle, is like, what's next? So you've evolved. We've talked about sort of what what the company strategy is with regard to these sort of memory evoking scents that seem to be your staple. Obviously, you're working on this deodorant piece, which sounds really interesting.
Mhm.
What's next for you guys? What are you excited about that's coming up?
Well, the same thing we do every night, Kevin. We're gonna try and take over the world.
Oh,
Haha.
perfect. Yeah,
Animaniacs.
yeah.
Probably nobody understands that
Sh-
reference, but yeah, we are just. What can I say here? My feeling is that our product could improve everybody's life without drugs, without therapy. It could actually measurably improve lives in a wonderful, you know, environmentally sustainable way with, ethical employment with people who have health insurance. Like we're building the change that we want to see in the world. We've received feedback from first responders and everything. Some guy on the other side of this wall is a gigantic quote that's from a 9/11 first responder saying how much a part of his life our products are because he has extreme PTSD and through using Fire in the Hole, he's actually been able to take care of his personal hygiene. And
Oh, nice.
that's like, really drives me. And when I think about um, the what I feel is a coming mental health crisis from the isolation of COVID, from people's sense of smell is all over the place, and you can retrain your nose if you have post COVID like insomnia is the lack of smell, and so you can actually retrain your nose. I feel like these things are ever more important now, the handling of stress, the subtle improvements in mental health and wellness. And we have tried to create a product that's accessible financially for most people. We're not charging $25 for body wash. And that's really where I see us is we are going to become, and we are already, a subtle way that people can impact their mental health every single day, feel better about themselves, feel better about the world. And I can't think of a person who doesn't need that right now.
Wow, that's not only kind sentiment, but but just great to hear. And obviously, so many super exciting things going for you guys. I and all of us over here are rooting for you. I can't wait to read your next insane headline or your 17-page newsletter post. I've got to go back and see if I can get on that list.
Oh
Danielle,
man, it is wonderful. Thank you so much. This has been so much fun, and what a great
my
way to
pleasure.
spend today. Thank you so much.